if you're not going to give Brian Daboll Coach of the Year, like you're going to give it to Nick Sirianni, right there in the NFC East. So I think he's done a masterful job. He's got really good coaches on his staff.
Boom! Asking you shall receive. Hey, what's happening, my man on the left coast? So happy to finally get on the football playbook, Rhett, man. How you doing?
I am very excited to finally be with you, Rick. But actually, I'm like, we may only be like mere miles away from each other, and I have clearly stepped into enemy territory because I don't know if you can see what that is. Indiana, okay. I am calling games for IU this year, so I'm on. Yeah, exactly. So I got the IU Rutgers game from Piscataway here tomorrow.
Oh, man. You know what? Now that I know that, I'm going to have to try to get down there.
Really? Yeah.
I didn't know that. You surprised me with some good things here today, right?
Let's go.
Oh,
That's
baby.
Right.
Well, if you missed it at the beginning of the show, I called you the Deebo Samuel of the NFL Network because you're just a jackknife. You're doing podcasts,
right.
You're doing sideline reporting, you're doing studio stuff, you're doing halftime hits. I mean, what is it?
Yeah.
What doesn't Rhett Lewis do these days?
Rick, the more you can do, baby. You know what I mean? You know what it's all about. It's like when you're when you get your draft notes out and you're studying a prospect, and you got a guy who's maybe he's an NFLPA Bowl guy, and like you want to maybe he's a day 3 guy, and he's got to find a way to make it make an impact on special teams. He's got to find a way to make an impact wherever he can. So that's what I'm trying to do here for you, Rick.
I see it. No, I see it, and I love the move the stick stuff that you're doing.
Yeah,
and,
man, we have fun.
My favorite though is when they linked you and Baldy up a couple times there on the NFL Network. Man, that's my guy.
Well, Baldy's my guy too, man. We used to do the aftermath together every Monday, and now Baldy and I usually get to hang out a lot of times preseason, training camp, and whatnot. And I don't see him as much during the season, but he's awesome.
All right, Rhett Lewis here, NFL Network, Indiana. Football, who knew? This guy needs another job. If you're watching, he's available for hire. He's a top gun.
Let's go.
But, hey, it is a Philadelphia show. I'm right in between Rutgers and Philly here at the Jersey Shore, Rhett. Next time you come east, by the way, we got a spot for you in the Jersey Shore. Ocean Casino Resorts, if you want to go to Atlantic City. We got you covered. Yeah.
All right.
But with that being said, we are Philadelphia-based, so I got to get your bird's eye perspective on the undefeated Philadelphia Eagles, looking pretty good as they enter the bye week here. What's your take?
Yeah, I mean, just a really solid football team. And I think some of the things you really liked about Philly from a year ago, we're still there, right? The run game, the maturation of Jalen Hurts, but then you add in, an A.J. Brown, you add in a Hassan Reddick, just like huge playmaking type of talents on both sides of the ball. And man, I mean, it's funny, like the perception of Nick Sirianni from day one, when he got all kinds of heat for whatever that press conference was.
That was rough.
To now.
Yeah.
It's about as like stark a difference and as 180 of a turnaround as there has been. I mean, like if you're not going to give Brian Daboll Coach of the Year, like you're going to give it to Nick Sirianni, right there in the NFC East. So I think he's done a masterful job. He's got really good coaches on his staff, which obviously is really important, especially for a guy who's never been a head coach before. So, I mean, like you got to hire guys that are as good, if not better than you are. And I think he's done that. Jonathan Gann is a terrific defensive coordinator. There's just a lot to like there, Rick.
No, and I think, Coach Sirianni knows what he doesn't know. They started off 2-5 last year. Then he gave up the play calling duties. He said, I need to be more of a CEO. And he adapted and adjusted like we do in this great game of football. But you're right. I mean, that introductory press conference, I said, hey, Paisan, hey, I love my Italian head coaches, but what are we talking about out here? What's this guy about? With that being said, the quarterback, Jalen Hurts, is taking a note out of the playbook from Coach Sirianni. I mean, I can't think of a more improved player, I don't think, in the National Football League.
No, I mean, like he's certainly right up there. And the thing is that like his personality and his makeup and his willingness to work and to lead are what allows him that opportunity to grow. right? That opportunity to continue to thrive and to find ways to get better. It's just a dude that's like, you look even in Alabama, things didn't go right. After his first year starting, right, he gets pulled in the national championship game. Tua comes in, wins it, and it's all the glory goes to Tua and all that. But Jalen's like, all right, let me go figure out what's going on over here at Oklahoma, and I'll be a flipping Heisman Trophy candidate. In my last year at Oklahoma, so I just feel like his edge and like his internal motivation is so high that, all right, yeah, there's some whispers out there in the NFL right now that like, I'm just, I'm not a passer. Like I can't do it the way that all the greats do it. But like that, he just like uses that internally to continue to get better. And he is a top 5 quarterback in football right now.
It's so funny you say that, Rhett, because my next question, you set me up perfectly for the next question, because it's so fascinating to me. Whenever I ask a national media member their impression of Jalen Hurts, he's a franchise quarterback, no doubt about it. But yet here in Philadelphia, depending on what show you watch here on the JAKIB Sports YouTube channel or radio show you tune into, or what, it's really a 50-50 division. There's some media members, it seems like they've already made up their mind, like he's not a franchise quarterback. Last week he didn't throw enough touchdown passes. This week he didn't throw enough yardage. It's like you can never win with the Jalen Hurts debate. But, I mean, I saw a guy last night, Kyler Murray, who's making $46 million a year. Jalen Hurts is a franchise quarterback at this point, and he's going to get franchise money, right?
Oh, no doubt. No doubt about it. Like that is going to happen, and it's just a matter of when the Eagles want to do it, when they can do it, and all that. But they are finding a way to make that happen. No question about it. I mean, like, you go back to the Minnesota game. Puts up 330, completes almost 90% of his passes. Like, is that something you might be interested in? Is that something a franchise quarterback does? I don't care if they're even like if they're under 10 yards in the air, like that's still a feat, man. And then like just the ability with me for Hurts to find answers, right? To provide answers to different things that defenses are trying to throw at you, right? All right, so let's just say the passing game is a little off, right? The rhythm's off a little bit, and he's got a way, right, to deal with that, to counteract that, because he can take it upon himself and his own athleticism and whatever, the call is. He can scramble. He can there's quarterback design run. I mean, like, we should be praising him in a different way as a franchise quarterback for all the stuff he can do that traditional franchise quarterbacks cannot. Right. And so I think it's more about what he can do for you more than what he can't.
He can beat you a lot of different ways, that Jalen Hurts can. And, suddenly, don't look now. We used to call it the NFC least. Now suddenly it's the NFC beast. I mean, look, you mentioned the Giants and Brian Daboll. Coach John DeFilippo just mentioned, like, if it's not Nick Sirianni for Coach of the Year, it's Brian Daboll. And I countered that with, hey, it's the same team except they have good coaching and confidence. It's amazing what he's done there.
It really is a lot of the same characters. And I mean, when you're out there, and I hope Daniel Jones starts to get a little bit more of his due. The way he operated that offense in the second half against London against Green Bay, that was brilliant, right? The one incompletion in the second half was a throwaway down in the red zone. So I think he's taken a lot of heat, and rightly so, for some of the turnovers. That stuff's got to clean up, and they're still kind of lurking here and there. But I think on the whole, he's cleaned that up in a big way. And then you got Saquon is just flat out back, right? Saquon rookie year is just back. And so I think that's a huge lift, clearly, to what Coach Daboll wants to do as a guy who can grind it out with you. I think their offensive line has played pretty good. That you think about those 2 top 10 picks, Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal. That's working out pretty good right now for Joe Shane. Wan'Dale Robinson coming back, we saw a week ago, is a big lift for this team. I think there were a lot of people who were like, wait, Wan'Dale in the second round? Really? Like, that's where we're – No. That dude's an explosive, like, firecracker type of player. You saw that. And
he's what they thought Kadarius Toney was going to be.
Exactly right. And so, I think about that a lot. I think about the fact that they've kind of held water on offense with Darius Slayton and David Sills, as wide receivers. And that's no disrespect. It's just a matter, they're not household names. Slayton maybe a little bit more so. He's had some success in his career. But the fact that like their three best receivers are out and have been out, and best, quote unquote best, right? Kenny Golladay, Kadarius Toney, and Sterling Shepard. Man, hats off to Brian Daboll and company.
Well, with that being said, let me ask you this, because the Giants are riding high at 5-1. They have the 2-4 Jaguars. Even if they play losing football the rest of the way, Rhett, they can go 5-6 and still win double-digit games. The Dallas Cowboys are getting Dak Prescott back this week. They're 4-2. Dare I say we are going to see 3 teams in the playoffs out of this division?
Oh man, because this was the last division that you would think about in that respect. Like you think about the NFC West, you certainly think about the AFC West. Like I made an argument this summer, Rick, that like all 4 teams in the AFC West were going to go to the playoffs, right? With the way that they had kind of come off the top ropes to try to improve themselves this summer and in spring, going back to free agency and the draft. So. Man, to think about that, I'm going to go because I haven't looked at this yet, but I got to see this. I got to see what the Week 18 slate is. Giants, Eagles, Week 18, right? And Cowboys, Commanders, Week 18, because all teams play divisional games in Week 18. I mean, usually the NFC East comes down to Week 18 because there's like a 8-9 team. A 7
they're all
team.
like ringing around 500, right?
Right, for the wrong reasons. Now you could like the division might not be decided until then. The final playoff spots might not be decided until then because they're all wildly successful this season. Man, that's fun.
It's going to be fun to see how the rest of the season unfolds. And we're talking to Rhett Lewis, NFL Network, who I called the Deebo Samuel of the NFL Network, and the 49ers adding another. Pay me like it. Yeah, right. Yeah, show me the money. But they went out and got another dynamic playmaker in this Christian McCaffrey. And, man, I'll tell you, I saw Deebo Samuel actually has more rushing touchdowns than receiving touchdowns over the last 2 years. Maybe this allows him to play more of his natural position. This Brandon Ayuk is emerging into a little bit of a playmaker. You still have Kittle there. Does this shift the power rankings of the NFC, in your opinion?
I don't know yet, because I mean we still got to see it. You know what this does remind me of? This reminds me a little bit of a Shanahan trading. It was. It would have been the opposite, right? Because Mike sent Clinton Portis packing, right? Or was it the other way around?
Champ Bailey, they traded him for Champ.
Yeah, right. And usually it's a Shanahan coach team that can get by, more than get by, with less than in terms of like draft status, less than in terms of like pedigree running backs, right? And it's why Eli Mitchell was a stud.
Jeff Wilson.
Jeff Wilson, Raheem Mostert. And now they're kind of coming up and mortgaging a few picks, more than a few picks, a bunch of day 2 and day 3 picks to go get Christian McCaffrey, who I understand is a beast and an absolute stud and a star in this league. And when he's healthy is, arguably the best in the league in terms of receiving and rushing. So that's kind of interesting to me that they felt like they had to go get a dynamic player like that for the backfield. And I don't look as a coach / personnel guy who works together with John Lynch there in San Francisco. I think you love to see your team going after it, right? Getting aggressive to go get it. I'm kind of curious to see how it all works and how they really use him, maybe even more so than we've seen the running back used in that offense, which is a ton already, right? Just the way that they like to run the football. So I'm a little upset because I had Eli Mitchell to start the year in my fantasy squad. I had Jeff Wilson as my handcuff, so I might as well go back to the drawing board here.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit rough for your fantasy squad. And, CMC, man, he's on pace for another 1,000-yard rushing, 1,000-yard receiving type of campaign, so it'll be interesting. I do want to pick your brain a little bit on the AFC. Before I do, though, I heard that the 49ers and Rams were kind of in a trading. Maybe that's why they had to give up so many picks. So I wonder, like every day I log on or put on NFL Network, there's a new OBJ rumor. He's going to the Vikings. He's going to the Bills. He's going to the Rams. I mean, are we making too much of the Odell Beckham coming off a torn ACL, or can he be a difference maker? I heard the Chiefs want to add him. I heard the Packers want to add him. Like, what's going on with OBJ?
Yeah, I mean, we're probably overdoing it a little bit. Now, the guy's a physical freak. We know that. Has come back from injuries like this before. I mean, like, whenever he's healthy and whenever he signs, are we expecting, 9 catches, 160 yards, and 2 touchdowns first week that he's in there? I think that's probably a little unrealistic, but I think what excites you about that is you saw how Odell kind of slowly ramped up with LA, and then once you get into the playoffs and that first half of the Super Bowl, and now you're like, all right, he's on. Like we're back, and to have that kind of weapon available for a postseason team as he kind of finds his sea legs. Before, towards the end of the regular season, whenever he ends up signing and getting healthy, I think is exciting. I think that's why people are so excited about it. By the way, I would assume that with the Rams' interest in Christian McCaffrey, that Cam Akers was a part of that deal because it certainly feels like he has played his last down in Los Angeles based on everything you read and hear and see. Yeah. And so I would imagine, I wonder if Carolina just wasn't as interested in taking on another player. But I assume that had to have been at least a conversation piece in that deal for Christian McCaffrey.
No, good point. And we're talking to Rhett Lewis, NFL Network. I'll get you out of here soon, Rhett, I promise. But I got to ask you, in the AFC, Coach Flip called the Jets, to bounce back, and they look pretty good. Yeah. But to me, I mean, it looks like it's the Bills and the Chiefs and then everybody else. Are you in agreement there? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're the 2 main contenders, right? It's hard to say anything otherwise with the way that they have played and the way they played each other. The Bills are so dang good, man. The Bills are just so, and they don't like one of their top. I would say, like outside of Von Miller, their next best defensive player is yet to play a snap. Tre'Davious White.
Wow, yeah, good point.
So you get a healthy Tre'Davious White for the stretch run. That's like swinging for the fences at the trade deadline. You know what I mean? And getting a bonus without having to give up anything. Now that's assuming that everything's going well with his rehab, and I have not heard otherwise. But you pair him up with Kaiir Elam, who out of Florida has really shown that he can be a guy who's has his nose around the football, get his hands on the football as an aggressive type of player, as corners on the outside. You get some of those safeties a little bit more healthy. I'm telling you, that is a scary team.
Don't forget about my guy, Christian Benford out of Villanova, undrafted.
Yeah, let's go.
Let me switch some gears to college football scene here since you're doing the Indiana-Rutgers game this weekend. I'll ask you for a little bit of a game preview. We had a question come in from the chat room about the head coach who I think is a pretty good head coach, but the last year or two they've kind of been knocked off the pedestal, and I wasn't aware of this. Somebody said they lost a lot of players to the transfer portal. Is that true? What's going on there in Indiana?
You're talking about IU? Yeah. So, but they also gained a ton through the portal as well. So they gained 13 through the portal, and they've been huge contributors. So I think you're going to see that. I think it's hard to make anything of portal losses in this age. I think that they had the most notable one was Michael Penix Jr., who's now the starting quarterback at Washington and is doing great things. Like Mike needed a fresh start. He had 3 season-ending injuries consecutively as IU's starting quarterback, and he needed to find a way to move on, and he's reunited with his offensive coordinator who was at Indiana when he was most successful, Kalen DeBoer, who's now, of course, at Washington, and is doing a great job there. So I'm certainly happy for Mike. So the thing is, Rick, and you look at the win-loss record really going back to the start of the 2021 season, and this if you follow Rutgers and the last few years, like Indiana's top-end talent, they're starting 22. Like there's not that much of a gap between, let's say, there's a gap between Ohio State and everybody in terms of talent. Like that's a given. But as you move below Ohio State and you kind of start stacking people up. The gap between top end talent and starters there is not that big, but the gap between 23 and 44 starts to get a lot bigger. The depth is always a problem in these types of situations, not just with Indiana, but with programs like it. Rutgers feels that too. So Indiana's, that's one of their biggest missions, is continuing to build up that next wave, right? That next group. And they've been playing a lot of guys this year. They're trying to develop a lot of guys. They are a developmental program, kind of similar to what Northwestern is. And like every couple of years, they're going to be right there in the mix. But Tom Allen's trying to build a more consistent winner. And there's still a path to bowl eligibility for both these teams, and it starts Saturday.
Yeah, tell us what kind of game our fans going to expect to see. For Rutgers, I can tell you Coach Sirianni has done a great job of making a competitive team again. But, man, he's struggled to find himself a signal caller. I mean, they are just trying to piece that quarterback position together every week. It's kind of been a shuffle there going on. By the way, is this your first time in Piscataway?
This will be my first time going to yeah, I guess it is, because when I was playing in the Big Ten for Indiana, IU and Maryland were not yet in the Big Ten, so I'd been to every stadium. So this is another one that I'm going to get to. I still haven't been to the Shell over at College Park, so that'll be after this year. That'll be the last one I got to get to. But yeah, so I'm excited about this matchup here. I mean, look, here's the one thing Rutgers can do is they can play defense. They're a top 10 defense in college football right now, and it's going to be a real challenge to run the football against this defense for Indiana, which is something they've struggled to do a little bit. They've got a young offensive line, particularly on the right side. They're trying to develop some consistency there. Here's the one thing that you're going to see. You are going to see the fastest offense in college football for Indiana. Nobody runs more plays per minute than the Hoosiers offense.
Really?
Wow. Yeah, they run almost 4 plays per minute. They want to run every 8 seconds.
Wow.
That's like Chip Kelly, like extra.
Yeah,
right?
No, I got to admit, I didn't tune into an Indiana game yet this year. Yeah. I had no idea that they do that. Okay.
Yeah, so they go super fast, and man, when their quarterback Connor Bazelak, who was an SEC Freshman of the Year playing for Missouri a couple years ago, is now transferred in to Indiana. When he is stacking completions, he's a rhythm passer. When he is stacking completions, it's really tough to stop. But when they start going 3 and out in 16 seconds, then it's trouble. So that's really staying on the field, sustain drives, winning on third down, not getting into third and long. That's what Indiana's offense is all about. That's what they have to do to be successful against a really tough Rutgers defense.
No, I'm looking forward to it, and I can't make any promises because I do have a sick daughter at home, so I'm going to try to do my best to get down there.
All right.
Man, whether I do or don't make it, man, you got to get yourself a slice of Jersey pizza pie while you're in town.
You better believe it.
Yeah, man. Anything you want to say to our listening audience before we let you go? What's coming up? What do you got going on outside?
Go Hoosiers!
Yeah.
So I'll be back in studio for NFL Network on Sunday doing our highlight show, NFL Game Day Live. Be there from basically as soon as the early games kick off until the end. So we give you nonstop highlights all day, and then move the sticks on Mondays, man. Check us out.
All right. Sounds like a little red eye action for you then.
Oh, yeah. Always getting out. Whatever you got to do.
All right, Rhett. Appreciate the time, brother. Hopefully I'll see you tomorrow.